In 5 minutes' time now, at the top of the hour, US Treasury Secretary Bessent testifies at the House hearing on Treasury Department's priorities. We do have a live video on the feed for those interested. Also, at the top of the hour, Fed's Bowman is due to be testifying on oversight of prudential regulators to the House Financial Services Committee. We have a live video for this as well, also on the feed.
Morning.
Just noting Fannie Mae shares and Freddie Mac shares spiking higher by around 5.5 and 8% respectively.
Yeah, good call, Rory. 240, 220. I think that's your pivot.
According to state media, Iran's Revolutionary Guard says the region will never be stable unless Israel withdraws from occupied areas in Lebanon.
We're gonna look for I don't know, this bid to try to defend 220, I think, on this retest. Just watch to see what they do. A lot of absorption as we push up into 318, 360. But we would love to flip this 290.
So we're shortly expecting comments from US Treasury Secretary Bessent, who's testifying at the House hearing. Also, 1 minute to the text release from Fed's Bowman, who's testifying on oversight of prudential regulators.
Morning, Zeno. Into our pivot here on ES, just filling our gap. We need to watch to see if we lose momentum here now that we've gap filled. Is that the full move from our 30-second opening range now that we've filled, or are we going to be able to get back into yesterday's value and do something new, right? We know that there's sell-side absorption up into these highs, and we know that there's a buyer willing to absorb down here into these lows. So this is where this needs to flip on NQ and show it as resistance, and then we can start to do something new. Again, we have this pivot here on NQ into our 65 to 70. This is just previous day value low. Just watch to see if we fail to do anything new there. Yeah.
So no comments from Fed's Bowman, but we are seeing an IAEA report here. The IAEA has neither received information from Iran regarding the status of its declared nuclear material or facilities, nor had any access to any of those facilities to conduct in-field verification activities. So Iran allowed the IAEA to inspect the Bushehr nuclear plant, though, on June 1st to 3rd. So the report shows that the IAEA estimate of Iran's enriched uranium stocks up to June 13th, 2025 are unchanged from previous reports. The IAEA sends 2 quarterly reports on Iran member states. The report reiterates that it is indispensable and urgent to implement effectively the NPT safeguard agreements in Iran and that its implementation cannot be suspended. The IAEA report reiterates that it's critical for the IAEA to conduct verification activities in Iran without delay.
Watching our reaction here.
So the report says, consequently, the IAEA cannot verify the status for safeguard purposes of the facilities associated with nuclear material in the region. In light of Iran's continued unwillingness to address the unresolved safeguarding issues, the IAEA has outstanding concerns about the possible presence of undeclared nuclear material and activities in Iran. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says the ceasefire in all fronts, including Lebanon, was Tehran's initial condition for an end to the war with the US. Russia and the US are set to sign an agreement on a tunnel across the Bering Strait tomorrow. So, according to Zvezda news outlet citing Russia's Dmitriev.
I'm watching 54 on ES as we come down into that 54, 55 for a bounce on ES. NQ coming into our 20s. Just watching to see how we react as we push back down into POC here on ES from our look back into value off this failure right here. All right, we got our look above value fail now at our POC. Now watching to see if we bounce or if we're rotating back down fully. NQ, again, it's continuing to just absorb here. We're watching to see if we can flip this or if this is going to offer and rotate down. Just watching now our pivots. This is PVZ and our 30-second opening range low and ES into our 53, 54. Just keeping an eye on this. Failure to sustain here on ES at this 54. We rotate down to 48. Right, just come back down to our open. Just keeping an eye. I'm really only interested in the long, if we can get back above 40 to 60 and then look for the bid. I'm not trying to knife catch with weakness. Just wait for Russell to find bounce with ES and then we'll be fine. We either trap here on a look below again off of a failure, or we'll flip and this 220, 240 will be a pretty clear reoffer. We'll look for that bounce, I think, around here on NQ. And then we'll look for that reoffer. I already gotta delete this. Sorry. I'm watching for our bounce here at ETH low, and then let's retest this as our pivot. If we can get it, that'll be my entry. I think, again, we're just waiting for ES and RTY to find this bounce point, and then we'll look for the retest of our selling on our edge. I don't think there's any reason to panic here. Just coming down into our next target here on ES at our 30-second opening range high at 48.75 and our view up. There's your bounce at our ETH low with ES there. Again, let's just watch to see what they do. Should give us a decent reoffer. Either we trap down here and then we look back above, like I said, or we'll just be retesting this edge as resistance and then continuing on our way. Russell bounce, ES bounce, NQ bounce. Now, again, let's just watch to see if we put down a lower offer or not. It's really important edge here on ES. With our POC retest right now. This guy at 180 to 195 just got trapped pretty badly. Watching a retest here as they push into him again. The most bearish response would be a hold of this 180, 190. If we don't do that, then we'll rotate back up to our larger structure and retest this edge here. So we were just really keeping an eye on what they're going to do into this, where we're seeing that a little absorption. Because if not, right, we're just going to rotate back to retest our edge, and then that's a much more important area of interest. Just watching now, see what we do. Again, it's the same thing on ES with our POC. It's like, can that hold, and can this guy hold here on NQ? Or are we going to be able to lift and then come back up to that 240 area for, right, it's just like something like this, or are we going to have to come back up into this and then figure out what we want to do here? Either like bounce and then continue, or reject, flip back below, and then go. That's why I say it's like it's fine to be patient in areas like this because we can just find reflexive bounces on the entire market. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, any entry that you tried to take before that, it just is going to feel terrible. When we know that like we're going to get a reflexive bounce back up to retest that guy. Let's see what they do here. Watching as we push into our 220, 240. This is if you're playing off that higher low here on the recovery, we're just watching this as our pivot. Sorry, move it like this into our node. We either flip above and hold, or this will reject, and then we'll look for that rotation back below our 180, 200 for continuation down. So as we push in, watch to see if sell side sits here. What they're going to try to do is recover and bid off of this like 210 area, I think, if they're going to be able to hold. Just watching this as our pivot. Again, big area here. This is where we saw an insane amount of absorption on the first test. So if we can flip back in and get back over and start to build over this 240, then we have a rotational trade with this being a trap below. So really watch our node here and see if we see absorption first before you try to short an edge randomly, right? We want to be playing the retest or the rotation through, and it looks like it's going to be the rotation through. So really keeping our eye on that. See if we can get this bid. Big push on Russell. That's leading this up. Yes, good flip. Rotation back up to our highs here into our 66. Watching our retest here on NQ at our node. Can we now hold this node as supportive? If we can, should be able to head up to our highs. Watching. This is our 30-second opening range high here at 70. We're watching this 50 to 30. We want to see a really incredibly reactive bids there, and as long as that's holding, we should be able to retest back up to 300, I think, from what we're seeing right now. We want them to eat up here into this 50 to 30. Not a lot of follow through yet. I've got a limit at 80 just for 30 points from our 50. And then I have another PT at 300. And then we'll look for a breach of those highs if we can take this out. Took off half size there into 30. Or sorry, into 280. New 15's opening now. Opening above POC of previous candle, pushing back up to our highs here on NQ off of our flip on both NQ and ES. We recovered that absorption, right? Again, that 50 to 30 holding where that seller was sitting before should be able to rotate up to highs fully. Got one limit at 300. I'm looking to get filled. I'm hoping that we're able to take out those highs. And then if we see any speed through 300, then I'd be looking for 340 above. Just take off some size, let that trade play. Filled 300, one left. Into our highs here on NQ. Again, this is a great area to take off. If we can flip through, should head to like 330, 340. Deleting this now that this is played. Again, just back to our pivot here on ES. Big resistance above into our PVC highs. Watching to see if Russell can get some continuation, but big pivot here on ES. Yeah, so at this low here, beautiful flip of our 180. We can see that offer sitting here, just even in a price action and our reversion signal that printed off of PVC, right? But a very clear flip from our lows here. Sell side failed, right? To step on that, and we flipped, and then we're able to push. And then again, it's all about just understanding that like if sell side's going to sit, this would be our most aggressive seller,
In
and then
10
we'd be
minutes
looking
time
for
now,
that
at the
lower high
bottom of
for
the hour,
then
we see the release of
continuation,
the EIA's
right?
weekly natural gas change.
And
Forecast is for a build of 99 BCF on the prior build of 92 BCF.
if this can't hold, right? This is our most bearish seller, right? This would be our 30-second opening range low, as well as our value low here. if this can't do anything, right? If we can't see that aggressive seller here, we will rotate back up to where participants were last, right? Into this node. And I think it's really important that you recognize where these bounces can occur, right? How are we able to predict that we're going to be able to get at least a retest of this area? And then we figure out what we're going to do. Well, because Russell is coming back down to view up, right? We're just rotating back down to where our known buyers are. So we know on ES we're coming back down into this 50 like we talked about, right? We know that we're coming back down here on Russell. So we have these areas where we can look to engage, and then we watch to see what the reactions are going to be. If the rest of the market gets this bounce and then is able to do something with it, right? Flip our pivot at POC here on ES and be able to push our most recent highs here on RTY, we can't continue to have a bearish bias until we see, right, that resistance, that absorption to occur where we want to see it. Just because we're at a level and we've looked below doesn't mean that it's a short. We have a potential for a short, right? And we'll get that reoffer because we know that we're going to get that bounce, because we can see on the market that there is going to be that bounce point, and we have to be reactive from it. We can't be stuck in a trade. We can't say this has to be a short. It's like, no, we'll watch, we'll see if it'll work. We know where we want it to hold. And if it doesn't, we know that the market is then going to use those participants into our lows to trap and then rotate up, right? And so like you have to be fluid, and you have to be willing to be like, yeah, this is what I want to see, right? If we were going to be selling. But if we don't see that, then I need to be willing to look for that opposite side, especially when we have that upside movement from our reflexive bounce and then the reoffer fails, right? Sell side fails. That's okay. It happens, right? What isn't okay is for you to stay in a trade that has invalidated and that you know is wrong now, right? And then we just play off that 50 to 30 flip where we saw this edge on the recovery, and then we're just looking for that rotation to continue up, right? It's just coming back up into these highs. We're watching this on ES as well. But what we see on like our delta bubbles here is we have seller getting trapped into this low, and then we have an aggressive buyer who then steps here above on the flip. It's like, oh, okay, we're gonna at least come back up to this 220, which is where that last seller sat, that push down. So as soon as we flip that, then that's where I'm now looking for us to be engaging on retest, right? Which is why I was like this 250 to 230 area. It's like we're watching this seller now, watching to see if a bid will maintain the little auction that took place here. For this to become a short, what is the main driver of confirmation? Aggressive selling, right? So we use here. I can actually show you this. I mean, I don't think that there is a short here yet. What you need to see is a trap, right? So we either need to see a look above into this area, and then a lower offer trapping these traders into this high, and then seeing sell side trying to
Treasury
step
Secretary
down for
Bessent
rotations
says
back down
Americans
to
got
here.
$325 billion of tax relief this season.
Right, we need to see something new. We know that there's someone here at this edge passively, but what does that mean? It's just like our rotation through our balance, right? It's from this 320 to this 220, right? We're in a 100-point range right here on NQ right now. So what are we going to be able to do? Well, we need to see someone taking in size up here, right? A buy side trying to push, lots of effort, not a lot of movement, right? So it can be a short, but it might not be a short that's worth playing if you don't have an objective area to play around. Or sorry, not an objective area, a participant that's in that area that we want to be playing around, right? Like that's the difference. It's like the market's going to rotate, man, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be a good trade or there's going to be a objective area for you to actually be able to get in playing with a participant instead of just playing off of the zone itself. So again, like we can watch this low.
So in 5 minutes time now, at
Yeah,
the
340 is a
bottom of
great
the hour,
target.
we're expecting the release of the weekly EIA natural gas change.
We want
The
to see
forecast is for a build of 99
failure
BCF
here.
on the prior build of 92 BCF.
And then some sort of trap, right? We want to see buyers offsides outside of our range into this 330, 340, I would say. And then we watch to see if we can get back below, Right now we're holding POCs as supportive on these NQ candles. We see these buyers. Do you see all these green deltas here into this red zone? This is what you want to see if we're in a trap, if we don't get the follow through, right? We trap into these edge and then we push back below, and then the offer is willing to lower below these bids that are here on footprint. Do you see that, Adam? Right? So that's what we would want to be watching for, is can they do anything with that? Can these buyers who are trying to push us outside of this range that we've developed from 220 to 220 to 320 become offsides, right? Fail to actually push us out. And then we get back in, and then that offer lowers and defends, right? We can't come back in to retest them. So like that would be where shorts would start to make a lot more sense, is these guys become offsides up into these highs, and then we see a secondary seller, right, lower themselves and willing to then defend this edge, keeping them offsides. That's when shorts make sense to me. Just like this long makes sense when we hold this higher low, right? It's the inverse of that. Do you see how we were able to stuff into this ETH low and then find that bid and flip up, right? We want to see the same thing here at these highs if we're going to get a valid short. We want someone to be offsides to play with, because that's what actually moves the market. Yes, exactly, right? But you become the liquidity. And again, there's no problem by looking to play off of this area for continuation, right? Like this is where we want to see it. But what the problem is with people who get caught off in these areas is the unwillingness, right? Like the ignorance of not, I don't want to say ignorance, the thick-headedness of not being able to recognize that they are becoming liquidity and that they are trapped, and then staying in this trade instead of just rotating and taking the L at these highs once we see that they're not going to be able to get the continuation here and we've entered back in, and then being in drawdown all the way back down to the bottom of the range and then closing, right? That's when it's a problem. It's okay to try to bid off of this, right? This is the flip. If we're going to get the flip, it's going to go up from here. But the failure and then the rotation down and then the seller sitting here then at this 300, that's when you have to be like, oh, fuck, I'm on the wrong side, right? Because if you let this then traverse all the way back through your range and then you stop out, right? You're now at the bottom where you're looking to see if buyers are here again, right? But this is where most people will exit if they get caught on this short at the highs, right? And then you're just on the wrong side of this balance rotation over and over and over again because you're emotional. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like understanding your risk.
1 minute
right?
remaining
That's
for
all.
the EIA natural
We
gas
have a
change.
very clear level of interest that we want to be able to flip through, right? And that's built off of our candle here. We can see it, right? It's the POC to value of this. So we would be looking for, if this is going to fail, we would look for this liquidity to be trapped based off of this POC, right, into these highs. So we're watching to see if sell side sits into this, and then if we then hold this for rotations back through, right, or if we can continue to maintain here and then rotate up off of it, right? That's how I usually do it. So I'm just watching that as our gauge. Because as long as it's maintaining, then there's not really a problem. But being able to see that and recognize that that might be something that happens, right, is really important.
10 seconds.
Right, like we haven't shown interest over these guys yet, and we could see what happened on that retest, right? So until we do, we just want to be aware of it.
A build of
Right.
95 BCF, a build of 95
them.
BCF, lower than the expected build of 99 BCF.
Into our 70 rejection, watching our 65s here on ES as we push back down. This is previous day value low. This is our big pivot. Great job, Cass. Yeah, to be honest, I'm pretty done as well for today, but I'm gonna stick around, of course. But I've made my money already off of that rotation here. Watching to see what we do as we push into this.
And we have posted the EIA natural gas change report on the feed for those interested.
I saw your DM. I'll respond. Congrats, by the way. I'm glad you finally sold it, man. I know it's a long time coming. Watching this 310 to 280 area to see if we're going to be able to bid or if this is going to flip. Buyers are trying to hold here. We'd have to get back above 330 for this to have any real meaning, though. Bid resting at 300. They've taken in like 400 contracts into 310. They're trying here. Just watching to see if we can hold or if this is going to flip and trap. Just like we talked about. Coming into our POC of our previous candle. Tens holding, pushing into our 30. If you're playing off of that 10, you have to risk off at least a little into 30 here. And then we watch to see if we can get the flip and bid. If we can, we get continuation. If not, it's a lower high. Just keeping our eye on it. There's your 30. It's your first PT, 20 points. And we look to see if we do anything new here. We want to see bids step up. If they're going to do it. ES has to get over 70. Very clear absorption into 70, which is our edge here as well that we have marked. Back to our 70 here in ES. Very clear absorption up here. Again, got to flip this for anything more, or this is just going to continue to be where they offer into the 69.70. Seller still sits 30 on NQ. Right. Remember, this is us trying to get back into yesterday's value on ES. Incredibly important area to let us know what we're going to do. We're failing so far at our 70. You get continuation if we are able to get below 290, I think. But if 290 to 310 continues to hold, then it's a two-sided auction while we wait. Just this seller into 330, 340, and our buyer at this 290 to 310. Just have to flip one of them. Yeah, because if you're gonna share that, I would recommend taking out your last name at least on that, so you don't like fully dox yourself immediately. Into our 30 here again. If you're playing off of this 290 to 310, just we have to flip this for more. This 330, 340 has to go supportive, or this is going to continue to be where they take in size. Understand that? Right, like this is what we're seeing up here, just to give you a perspective. Right, these are our two areas of interest. All of this absorption into these highs. And then we have this pivot here at our 310 to 290 where we're just rotating in between these two participants, where they're just taking in size, lots of effort, not a lot of movement. But if we can get below this and then offer this, then I think we go down. But if this is continuing to hold and then we can bid off this, right, then we can keep going. We just have to get through this 330, 345 area into these highs. But if they continue to fail and there's a lot of effort and not a lot of ability to do anything of interest, then it doesn't really matter. You can see how they're trying to take in there, right? Yeah, it kind of seems like it. But our only hope here is that this ES guy at like 67s can now be bid, and that does something for this push over 70s. But I don't know. The longer that we sit here and fail to get over this 330, 345, the grosser it looks. Again, like we just need this ES higher low if it's gonna be able to act as our catalyst. RTY leading down. New 15's opening now. Yeah, I mean, ES looks a little bit better than NQ. But again, we've got our two areas of interest. So as long as they continue to try here at this 310 to 290, I'm not mad at it, but there's definitely no interest over that 330, 340, like you said. Just zero. Just got to keep our eye on this. I think ES leads, like I was talking about before. Yeah. Very two-sided. This again, just your first risk off if you're playing. This is a range here in 310 to 330 until we can flip above and hold. This is just it. Very two-sided. Same thing with ES into 70s. Needs to flip. RTY retesting our halfway back and POC shift. Rejection so far. Bid trying with size here on ES into 70. Taken so far. Yeah, of course not. And it's a one-to-one trade on either side of the risk that you want to take right now with potential for expansion, right? Or you just wait for the break of either side, right? It's not a huge deal, right? You have very clear risk from uh, 30 to 45, right? And rotations back down to 310 to 290 and 290 to 310 for rotations back up to 330. Like one-to-one on either side, basically. We just wait for a decision to be made. I'm thinking Russell will lead though with ES. Just gotta be patient. This RTY lower high is pretty telling with us failing there. Let's see if we can get this offer to step down. This failure here at POC is pretty important that we just saw. Again, lots of traders trapped into 66 to 70 on ES on this look back in. We're watching our reoffer here. See if sell side is willing to defend a lower high as we try to push. We've already talked about this, how this is absorption. There's not really a great long until we can flip that. We're watching to see if the offer is going to sit here now to push down, or if we can get back in and get over that 70. Really pay attention to this area on this reaction. Bid continues to be present at that 290, 310 on NQ, no change. Needs that to breach for more. Watching our reoffer here on ES and RTY to let us know what we're going to do. POC is now shifted. It's migrating on our lower time frame charts on the daily to this like 310, 315 area on NQ. Russell coming up to retest our POC shift here at our main pivot. It's also our halfway back off the previous 15. Watching ES as well for that lower high. This is either where we get a really nice reoffer to start leading us down off of this absorption that we continue to see into 330 on NQ, and then we get the flip, right? Or RTY will be able to flip back above, continue, and then these traders on ES will be trapped into this low. Yeah, and it'll be a big retest here for Russell. Again, just continue to show no interest over that 330, 345 area on NQ. And until we do, it's very stuck. Yeah, 560 is incredibly important. That'll be first PT if you're playing for the rotation through, right? That's our PVZ value high and ETH high from period 1. If Russell wants to lead up and not reject, then there's not going to be a great downside move, in
Financial
my
Times
opinion.
reports that Goldman
But we'll
Sachs
see.
expects SpaceX AI revenue to surge 100 times by 2030.
Into our main seller here at 67s, where we took in massive size. Retesting now. 67 to 70 is your pivot flip for ES. Took off my first risk here again into 330 from our 310. Back up into our highs here. We're watching for that 70 breach with Russell continuation here, right? Russell did not find resistance at that pivot, invalidating a lot of that short bias. Just back to our highs though, no breach and hold above yet, but RTY is leading into our big pivot here on NQ. No desire yet to transact above that 30 to 45. Same thing with that 70 on ES. Watching Russell, see what it does here at these highs. Just a range rotation right now. But RTY is trying to flip and now retest this pivot on the other side. Still no desire. Taking off a little more. Offer at 50. Right, like this is what this is what I've been watching and how we came up with these levels. You see that? All this into here. It's insane. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely watching this 45 to 30 now for retest with ES trying to push that 70. Still no desire. Watching new 15s just open. Russell leading up. God, I love Russell, man. There's no better signal. Holy.
Seeing some commentary from the IMF, they said that they're seeing some US inflation pass through from higher tariffs, renewed energy price pressures on headline inflation. The Federal
Beautiful.
Reserve should proceed with caution on rate policy due to continued upside inflation risks. The IMF says the return to the Fed's 2% target is now projected by the end of 2027, previously forecasted midway through 2027, and the markets are starting to bet on Fed rate hikes. IMF say Fed policy will need to be carefully calibrated to incoming data. Clear Fed communication will continue to be essential. IMF say that global oil prices are currently about 3% higher than levels used in its baseline 3.1% global growth forecast in April, and say that the Iran war has curtailed production of 14 million barrels of oil per day, and prices will depend on the Strait of Hormuz reopening. The IMF say oil reserves are expected to reach a 5-year low of 7.5 billion barrels in July versus 8 billion barrels before the Iran war started.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see 400 at least here. Yes, huge participants on this flip over 70s. Insane. Really keeping our eye on that area now. The 67 to 70 is incredibly important. Big buyers stepping in 70 and 72. We're watching to see what they do with this. I mean, we really want them to hold. Like, really want them to hold. Yeah. This is what we see on ES. For the same idea, right? I'm just gonna full size this real quick so you can see my visualization. I think we're targeting 75s on ES, but you can see like this absorption that was occurring here into these highs into 70, and we can see now like this big buyer who stepped in above. Great stuff so far. We failed that lower high here, right at that 67 that we were talking about. This would have been that reoffer where we would have pushed down and then gone from there. Instead, right, we've
Iran's actually held a
reclaimed
call
and
with
now
Hamas
pushed.
leadership and says
We're
Iran says it
watching its
continue to
liquidity here
support resistance in Palestine.
at 75. Just like, again, just this pivot where all this volume is exchanged. And then this here. And now just watching this. Right, we failed from the absorption to push below. Instead, we bid and then got a big chunk of volume here with Russell leading up.
The dollar yen touches the 160 level, last up 0.04%. And Best Sense says the White House has asked for Congress to move on the gas tax.
So was that good for you, Adam, being able to, you asked that question, I then immediately show you where that liquidity is on either side. We sustain where we need to, right? Showing us why we don't want to be shorting there until we can push below, right? And then we got our continuation. Hopefully that was helpful, you know. I think I just moved my stop to low at like 330 on my runner so that we at least get the full rotation that we were taking before. And then we just watch to see what our reaction here is into 30 to 45. See if we can build this flag above. Just watching for Russell to find a catch at these lows. Maybe just a retest here and then go for continuation potentially. And head up to that VPOC up at 35. Kind of the idea right now. And just watch this edge here.
Best Sense says the Iran conflict has been halted.
Oh shit. Forgot I can't move this. Into our VPOC here on ES, into our 75. This is previous day POC. From our flip of our previous day value, we've now rotated back up and we are now within that structure, taking a look to see if we can get through this VPOC or if this is going to fail. This 79 to 75 area, I think, could be pretty tough as we push into it. We'll watch to see if this is all we get before we need a retest of our value edge from 70. I think that that could potentially be a thing, but like, don't hold me to it, right? We're just watching to see how we interact in here, if we absorb, and if we then need to do this retest first before we can go on our way. I think that that has potential to play as we look at this liquidity that we have here into 75 to 79. We'll watch to see how we react here. If Russell just wants to keep going and we don't need to go for this VPOC, then, you know, we'll see. But yeah, I think so. If we can get over 400s is your first real test here. But yeah, big offer sitting at 400. Watching to see if they take and are willing to just continue. They just took in like 100 lots there. So let's see what they do. But yeah, definitely room up if we can get this continuation across market. Just watching as we push into this 79 what ES does. Because if it wants to just take in size and it doesn't give a shit about the supply, then who cares, right? Like we can just bid off 75s now and then rotate up to value high, right? So we want to see if they're going to absorb into this and then rotate us back below 75s for a retest, or if this is just going to be able to hold 75 and bid on ES. If it wants to and Russell wants to keep going, then we're good. This is target here on NQ 400s. Holy flashbang of a chart. Jesus. Beautiful stuff. So our trade from our 310 to 290 is now absolutely mooning. We've gotten our continuation and we're now pushing into target.
US stocks hit session high. S&P 500
Absolutely mooning.
last up 0.1%.
Yeah, now you can just trail, right? Nice. I had his old charts mapped when he was running tick. It's crazy that he's running a 30-second chart. This is a great target, boys. This is our big pivot here on ES and on NQ. Let's see if we flip. This is Russell into that VPOC target. Move stops up, trail, do what you got to do. This makes a lot of sense here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, if you have the ability to hold a runner, you can go for it. We're at target across the board. I personally just took profit. Do you. Trade is incredibly free. Yeah, I mean, there's potential for more, you know, I don't know. Good trade. Good stuff.
Percent repeats that US debt issuance to be regular and unpredictable.
From 184, yeah, that would have been nice. I was also in something similar there, but at 210 was my first entry. I closed a short from overnight.
And best end
actually,
says must let the
into,
Treasury buyers know the
170.
US is serious on its debt.
And then I flipped long at that overnight low. Here, I mean, I'll just show my transactions. I mean, it's just based off of what we talked about, right? But doesn't hurt. So what did we see? Well, we saw sellers getting taken into our overnight low. We saw the bid step back up after that absorption. I then looked for a long as soon as we were entering back inside of our 30-second opening range here. Played into our first little sell, took off half there, and then just trailed it as a break even at our 260 as soon as we entered back in, right? So now my stop was break even. And then I added as soon as we were able to flip over our first big pivot here on the day, which was, again, that area that Rory had spotted, actually. It was that 220, 240. So as soon as we started to sustain that and we were looking above, right, that was our idea for that long continuation for that rotation back up. So that this was that balance that we were trading within between our 290 to right to 310 and this 240, 220. So as soon as we started to see that buy step in here, I was just playing back up into that participant here, right? So I was just playing these guys to these guys, right? So we identified this buyer here off of this failure, entered back in on the look back into this once we saw buyers actually willing to participate. I just played into this as my first risk to make the trade free, right? So now it's 1-to-1 and I have a break even stop. And then I added to this trade on the look back in, and then I saw active participants step in here. So we were willing to take, and we were playing up into this as our pivot, right? Into these. As soon as we started to see that these sellers, right, were now being supportive, right? We were taking in size here, just playing up into our 40, right? And then as soon as we were able to push out, right, just watching these buyers step up and then playing that up. And you can see like our indicators also showed a really great reversal off that low from our reversion zone. On balance days like this, or when what was a balance day, we got our stacked signal at our low, and then we got a reversion zone, right, on the look outside reversion here, and then this was the risk that it suggested based off of that, just that low. And you're looking to play into this as your first target, and into this as your second target based off our indicator. Right, just a reversion trade. If I turn off all drawings, this is just PVZ that suggested that reversion to value, and then the hold of our value, right, POC to value low as supportive, led to a rotation up to our value high.
The Fed bids for 4-week bills totaling $4 billion.
Can you elaborate on the higher time frame chart? Yeah, I mean, you just have the gap, brother, right? So we have room to push technically. You've got this balance here. Yeah, I'm gonna go to the 5-minute chart. Get off of this. Right, we're getting back in, so this will be really important for us. We're back into this balance here. So the idea is that we have potential if we can hold this edge here on retest. I would assume that we're going to get a little bit more of a move here on NQ, and then we'll be looking for a retest of this, and then we'll look for something like this to head back up to our edge. Would be my assumption if we were going to be able to hold here to get back to retest previous day value. We've got this like multi-day, this 3-day balance that we traded within, and we haven't had like a really great retest of it. So if we want to get back above here on these lows and this buyer steps up here at our I don't know, what is this? 450 to like 400 here. If this guy can sustain on retest and we're back in, I think that, again, first target would be 500s, and then secondary target would be 575 for that retest. And then we figure out if we want to get back into this 3-day balance that we traded. But I think that there'll be some sort of auction that happens in between these two pivots for a little bit. And then we figure out where we're going to go from there. So as long as this bid is continuing to maintain here at this like 40 to 50 short term, I think we are headed up to this 95, 500 area. And then if we flip that, we should be headed up to 75s would be my assumption. Just because we're back into this, right? Like if these buyers are willing to participate here again, right, then we have room. We've seen that. And then we would just be retesting our edge. Sorry, I know that's a lot of rectangles. But I would assume that that's what we would be doing to come back up to retest value. But
So
I feel
Putin's
like we
envoy
have to
Dmitriev
build
says
here
Russia-US
a bit more than we
negotiations are
have
not
so
on
far.
pause. I spoke with Kushner and Witkoff on June the 3rd. Says not everything in Russia and the US contacts is tied to Ukraine. Trilateral discussions with Ukraine on diplomatic tracks are possible when the time is right, and Russia will continue bilateral track with the US on energy and the economy.
But the
Dmitriev adds the 3 US sanctions waivers extensions for Russian oil shows that the US understands that such waivers are good for energy market stability.
here again, I think that this is an important context, what we just did. What we just traversed this range, right? So this was our highs, our previous highs, right? This was our big pivot here. This was our value to POC of this auction that took place over here. We held these lows, right? So we traversed this as an auction. Do you see this? We traversed to these lows, rotated to these highs, recovered this POC to value here. Do you see that? And then we were in this value, right? So we traded from this balance, showed no desire to traverse lower, right, from here, and then recovered this balance, which is really important in my opinion. So if I go like this and I drag it over, what are we doing right now? Well, we entered back into this balance, right? So we held, we pushed down into these lows, recovered this range low, right? And now have pushed up into these highs. What do we need to do here? Well, I would love to see us hold these range highs to then rotate back up to retest this balance, which is what we were just talking about. Just to give you like context of why I'd love to see this area hold as supportive, right? This is that POC to value here from what day is this? Friday. Last Friday. So if we can now sustain here, doesn't it make sense to then look to come back up into these? That's kind of the idea of what I see, right? So we just rotated through this auction, showed no interest down in these lows, got back up into this, found an incredibly strong bid at this 310, 290 area, right? Which was that low of this balance, rotated up. I would love to see, again, a retest of this Friday auction high. And then if we do that, I would then assume that we would head back up to previous day value and end of day. That'd be my assumption.
Bills. The prior high yield was 3.63%, and the prior bid to cover was 2.76.
So let's really keep an eye on this this area here on this retest. Yeah, man. I mean, it's I just like break everything down into balances, right? I think that's like one of the best things you can do for yourself is just break things down into sections, section things out, right? Make things more digestible. Like, oh yeah, we did just rotate this range. It would be really great if we could now hold, you know, this range low. Well, let's watch to see what they do. 7,600. Yeah, I think that makes sense. If we can find a supportive bid here again, get back over 85s, 600s makes sense. That 85 sustain is going to be key. This is that big pivot that we played short yesterday. And again, it's just like if NQ can also build here, this is exactly what we were just talking about, right? If we can start to sustain here at this 400 to 40 area and build this out, really good chance to rotate up to 500s. And then we'll, look for that larger rotation back up to our target. Just want to be able to build and sustain here. I will be right back. Doing a lot of talking. I need water. Today is a great example of why not using all of your ammo into yesterday and continuing to try to press trades in a market that feels gross is just so not worth it, right? Like, just there's so many new opportunities every day, and I think this is a great example of a pretty like gross day yesterday for the most part until the afternoon, and then just like a pretty easy read of the day today. And like, if you use all of your mental, right, and actual capital, mental capital and real capital on a day where you're not feeling it, you miss opportunities on the days that really click for you. You do yourself such a disservice trying to force things just because your expectations exceed, right, reality. Your expectations of how much you want to be making per day, right, or how fast you think you should be moving.
So in 5 minutes' time now, at the bottom of the hour, the US is due to sell $75 billion in 4-week bills. The prior high yield was 3.63%, and the prior bid to cover was 2.76.
I had a good conversation with Ty last night in chat. If I wrote out a lot. I think it's probably worth your time to read through the posts if you missed them. Um, It starts here. It's probably worth your time. Just about it was a response to a Twitter thread of a guy who said he was unprofitable for like 7 years, and he's only started becoming he just became break even for all his trading in the last 7 months, and then what he was doing differently, and then me expanding on that idea. Just of, you know, the practices I think that make sense and the things that don't. It's nothing crazy, but it's things that you kind of just need to come to terms with. Man, I love trading from 10 to 12. What a lovely market. Yes. It's the only way.
So we're shortly expecting the results from the US 4-week bill auction.
That speedometer is funny. Yeah, man. It's the only way.
So keep in mind, in 10 minutes time now, at 11:40 a.m. Eastern Time, Bank of England's Governor Bailey is due to be delivering a speech at the Investment Association annual conference.
New all-time high. Well, I would say you're crazy, but the market's crazier, so who knows? Ugh. Surely the war can end and begin 5 more times today, and bring us to all-time highs. True. Note the time. It is 11:30. Market's starting to slow down a little bit as we have pushed to target. Just watching to see if we can start to build here. Build out this node up, get back into our previous distributions here, like we were talking about. It makes sense
The
to
4-week high
calm
rate's
down
of
a little bit.
4.165%, 4.615%, excuse me, with a bid to cover of 3.07, 3.07. So the US has sold $75 billion and they awarded 27.64% of bids at high. So in 5 minutes' time now, at 11:40 a.m. Eastern Time, we're expecting comments from Bank of England's Governor Bailey, who delivers a speech at the Investment Association annual conference.
Later, Ty. Yeah, I'm just letting things settle, come back down. As soon as Russell finds a low, we'll maybe look for something else, or I don't know, we'll see. No reason to chase anything until we build out some structure after playing that. Coming back down into our liquidity here. Watching our 400, 420 really for our main bid if we're going to sustain. I'd love to see something like this hold, because if we don't, then we're going to rotate back down to 370 first. Would be my assumption if we don't see our bid want to hold up here into this 420 for the meme. Head back down to here. Yeah, he's nuts. Watching again, just Russell finding our low. Ideally like here into PVZ would be ideal, right? Like 93, 99, 928. with NQ ideally holding here into our like 400, 420 area, and ES continuing to maintain here at our 81, 83, get over this 85, start to show interest, head up higher. Just need Russell to find its low. ES is bouncing with NQ, but RTY needs to find that low, and then we'll have full market participation for, you know, another thrust up. Until then, right, it'll be balance. How do we know it's balance? Well, we have mixed POCs for at our highs, at our pivot. So just we wait for the right side of the V to form again. We build out this distribution. We figure out if we need to come back further, right? If we start to curl over, come back down to our value edge, that'll let us know. And then maybe we need to do something like this and seek liquidity lower if we can't sustain here. We'll just have to keep an eye on it. Let this build. Watching Russell as we come down into pivot now. See if they can find it here or if we're going to have to come back down to 23s.
So we're shortly expecting comments from Bank of England's Governor Bailey.
RTY coming down to our secondary, no low yet, right? So just be very careful. I haven't taken anything new since we closed our long. Just waiting for this area to develop until Russell comes down and figures out that low. It's just going to be gross. Understand that it's going to be gross, right?
And so
No
keep
need
in
to
mind as
overtrade.
well, Fed's Daily is currently giving an interview as well. Keep in mind they're also due to speak later this afternoon, but they're just speaking now as well. We've got the live video on the feed. Fed's Daily says productivity gains from AI are not yet seen in the data. Fed's Daily says that she's bullish on AI and next year will be the litmus test. And US Treasury Secretary Bessent now says the US is seeing short-term elevation in prices. They're to come down.
Yeah, I think that's a good trade. Good lower high, very clear absorption into those highs so far, rotating down. Yeah. I think it was a clearer read on ES personally, but I think both of them make sense. Yeah. As long as RTY is continuing to fall, right? Like it just doesn't make sense to be looking for longs. It just doesn't. Like it's like the easiest thing you can do for yourself is just remember that you're not going to have a great trade until RTY
Fed's
finds
Daily
that
says I'm
low.
not seeing financial stability concerns over AI.
It's like the knife catch that keeps dipping until then. While we build. But I really like this setup that I see on ES here into these highs. With the trapped liquidity here. And we're just watching to see how we push down into like 78s, it looks like to me. Is your first area of interest? Let's see what we do.
Trump 2.0, real wage gains every month except April.
Here, I gotta delete these. I'm sorry. Oops. I just want to show you what I'm seeing on ES here from that high with Russell falling, because I think this if you are trying to play moves, right, like this is what we see, right? Some very clear bids coming in here, but not a lot of effort, not a lot of movement, right? We can see this on our 1 minute, and then this is a 15,000 tick chart on the left. So this is just our shorter time frames. You can see the actual participants getting a bit rough, right? Getting a bit off sides here into our highs. So they were taken into this high and then sell side.
Israeli
step
military
down
says
here.
sirens sounded
Right.
in northern Israel as Hezbollah launched several rockets towards IDF soldiers operating in southern Lebanon.
Right. So we can see that offer step down, and then we can see bids get trapped here again. And then we've got our flip of our lows here where we're seeing a bit of absorption. And we're now using that as our reference point to see if we're going to get continuation down or not. If they can hold here and get us below this 78 and flip, right, we're going to be looking for this offer to step down and then probably head back down to this bigger node here into this like 74 to 70 and then go from there. Would be my guess between these two charts that I have next to each other based off of what's happened so far. Right. Something like that. You just gotta watch it. See what they
Fed's
do,
Daily
but
says just because
that
we
guy
have
offsides.
similarities to the 90s doesn't mean it will be the 90s.
And again, remember, like it's still an uptrend. We're just pulling back down to liquidity that matters. This is Russell into our POC. Yes, back down to our previous day
Fed's
POC.
Daily says inflation
Before a failure
focus
here.
is now on energy and food driving up prices. And on the rate path, Daily says we don't know how the economy will play out.
And NQ into our value edge.
Daily says policy is in a good place. Daily says we are prepared to respond either way.
RTY at our 93 POC like we were talking about. Watching our bounces here. Remember, we're opening below our previous 15 minutes, and we've now rotated back down to what? Well, this bid, right, from this initial push out. So really important to see what we do here now that we've returned to fill in some of this poor structure that we created off of that big bid that we saw. We're just back to our original zone where we got our breakout, right? Retracing that
Daily
move
says
after that
forward
lack of desire
guidance is
forward.
not good at this juncture.
We wait for Russell to find that low. We've retraced back down to our breakout, and we're retesting now.
Daily says it's hard to say the labour market has firmed. It says right now policy is in a good place, but there is uncertainty ahead. And Daily adds the labour market is resilient and we've stabilised.
I like this 23 hold so far on RTY, but I'd like to see us get back over 28s for confirmation.
Daily says providing forward guidance could be misleading now.
This 23 to 28 is where we want to see this bid, but then again, we want to see a step up, or we'll rotate back down to like 14. See if we can get over and then bid this, or if this is going to reject and then rotate down to like 14. Good bid at our value edge on NQ, like we were talking about. Just watching this area. Need to get back into this range, or this will just be where that offer sits. I'm just watching your POC to on the previous 15. Right, we got this big node. When in doubt, right? Just the easiest thing you can do when you see a situation like this, just throw a fixed range on it. Like, don't make your life more difficult than it has to be, right? It gives you the levels, it gives you everything that you need to know like where we need to be able to get into. And where we're wanting to see that flip occur, right? Right here. Into our 28s, rejecting so far on Russell. It's got to flip that from our 23 bid. Show interest back above this. Or it'll just, like I said, chop here for a little bit and then potentially rotate down to our like 14, 16 area. So you really want to see this flip for that continuation potential. Holding our offer so far. No ability to look back into these upper distributions. Just watching Russell as we come back, seeing if we make a higher low and then we do anything new. We know the areas we need to breach.
Fed's Daily says the most worrying today is getting inflation back to target. That's the #1 priority.
I'm really keeping an eye on this like ES 79 to 77 area on retest. That is interest to me, especially if Russell can get over that 28. But really keeping our eye on the bid, trying to defend this 79 to 77. Let's see what they do.
Bank of England's Governor Bailey says the markets have been orderly and stretched at times.
Beautiful bait off our 79 there, pushing back up into our value. Watching to see if we can now rotate through this structure. RTY still no ability to look over 28s yet, but a couple points being offered, right, for free off of that 79 area on ES. Watching to see how we interact as we push back into this absorption that we saw at 83, 84. Your average was 397. I haven't been watching NQ. New 15s in 10 seconds. 397. I mean, it's okay. What was your stop? That's what matters. Just the low. What were you looking for? Was it invalidation?
Freddie Mac say
That's
US
what
mortgage
matters.
rates fall slightly to 6.48%. So that's the US 30-year fixed rate mortgage averaging 6.48% for the June 4th week, which is down from 6.53% the prior week. 15-rate mortgages at 5.79%.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a much, I think it was fine. I think that it's hard because it's still just a scalp, right? Like there's not, I think that the MNQ chart is much easier to read on the delta footprint, but you can see like we've got that pocket into 420 to 430, right? That we're just hitting. So like that has to be target. But like I think your bid is fine there. As long as like 70's holding, I don't really see any risk. Right. Right, like I kind of separated, yeah, the 1-to-1 to 2-to-1s with high probability are just like like they're just money, man. Once you start to accept that, like, oh, I'm just trading and I'm taking profit into known liquidity and I'm playing that rotation and I'm willing to take it and I understand that that's what's happening. It's like things become a lot simpler when you're not trying to make 1,000 points. And it's just like, oh yeah, I'm playing from liquidity to liquidity. Like, oh yeah, of course. But yeah, that's why I see like that as like these two areas here. So like if we can start to show that interest back over that 40 to 50, then we probably take out highs. But until then, right, you're just hitting your head on that sell side liquidity is sitting into 420, 440. Yeah. So like, I mean, listen, like you have, this is where like, I know I'm gonna repeat this over and over again, but like, this is where reviewing those trades and seeing where you took off at that 1-to-1 and seeing if that actually was worthwhile, or if just trading into your known
Meta shares
liquidity
extend gains to
was more
3.1%.
more beneficial,
We did see
right?
reports that Instagram are to launch Instagram Plus.
It's just one of those things where you literally just have to review and go back and be like, it's like, did we trade to that known liquidity and how did it feel at the time? Because like what your job is do the thing that's going to save you mental capital. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter where that trade's going to go. If you can take profit out of it and feel comfortable and not be stressed, like that's a good trade. And then if you can leave that runner for your liquidity target, then I think that that's great. And then like you can, by reviewing those, you can go back and look and be like, oh yeah, like these do have a pretty high probability to go to that target, right? And I need to get more comfortable with that rotation. And that's something that you can then practice. Right, but you won't know it until you review it and be like, "Oh yeah, that does make sense," or "Oh no, taking off here made sense," and my emotional response, right, when I did take off was relief, and I was able to get out, and I was able to compound, and maybe it's a bit of a slower compound, right, than taking for full size, but I was more comfortable in that trade, and that allowed me, to stay in with my runner, knowing that the trade was free. I don't know. Yeah, that's just like that's what I would
Bank
be
of
thinking.
England Governor Bailey
Right.
says markets may be exaggerating the speed of AI pass-through.
Like what? Again, like your mental capital is so important. Rotating up into your target here into 85s on ES from our 79s. Beautiful trade. There it is, right? Our 79 to 77, full rotation through our value once we were able to hold that structure, right? Just like we have pathed. This is your first risk off. You can see there's your pathing as well. So let's see if we can hold here into these highs with this trapped liquidity below, or if this is all we get, right? You can see that absorption occurring right now, but good bounce on NQ and good bounce on ES. I have to delete these so that I can go full screen, but really, and I want to show for the people that are just on YouTube, this setup that we were talking about. Right, so we found this liquidity here on this push up. We put a distribution at our highs, just a fixed range. And then we saw these sellers starting to get stuffed in that same area where these buyers were stepping in before. So I just looked for that higher low and then played off of that 79 to 77, looking for that to be our bid if we were going to maintain. We'd know if we were wrong pretty quickly because this would then go, we would be then looking at the zone as our resistance. So we play off of that as our support. And what we're looking for is this rotation through value, right, to these highs again. And we can see this absorption that's occurring into these highs. And we're watching to see if from here, right, this recovery of our value and our rotation through, if we can now build here for that continuation up, which is what we're trying to do now, right? Very limited risk, just 79, 77, right? And then just looking for that rotation through. And then your first risk off can be here, secondary risk off here into our known absorption. And then our third is new highs with, this is our catalyst with this trapped seller below, right? And we're looking for 91. Make sense? And that's target. Leave a runner if you have the ability, but I only made one. And let that thing play.
According to a statement, US House lawmakers release a draft AI regulation bill.
So again, when we see these extended moves where we push and we don't really have a ton of structure right after we get a squeeze, like this initial push out of that 310 that we were talking about. Notice where we pulled back to. Like actually, like look back. Right? It's what we were talking about. Right? We pull back to that POC of that squeeze candle. Do you see that? And it's just our value edge as well. But like we're pulling back to that liquidity. And you can see on ES, we pulled back to that literal stacked imbalance on our footprint here into this low, which is why we then looked for this long here after we found that liquidity pocket, right? But like on NQ, we pulled back into a known level of interest, right? Our POC to value of our previous candle. We found Russell into our POC as well. And we found ES into previous day POC and this liquidity pocket from this candle up. So it's a potential area for the market to come down to a local low at least to get at least a reflexive bounce up, right? That's the important thing to understand is like, where is the market going to have the best chance for that reflexive bounce? Where are people going to be looking to take profit? So we just look for that, where is their confluence across, you know, the market and looking for that low. As long as we can wait for Russell to find that local low and stop the selling trend down where it's just a straight red, right? We come down to our POC, like that's a pretty important level. It's like, oh, okay. Like if POC doesn't hold here, we're just going to VWAP, right? So we want to see a pretty initiative bounce here. And now we're just trading between our POC and value, right? Off of PVZ. And it's like, okay, that's fine. We can just rotate this node and oscillate while we make higher lows. But this is where we need to start looking to either take profits if we're in a short, because we know this is a local low across the market, or we need to be looking for, you know, some from those shorts that are being taken, taking profit, we need to be looking to then see if there's going to be an initiative bid that steps in afterwards, right? Just because there's profit taking doesn't mean that's going to be a bounce that results in a rotation for a new high, right? We could have just as easily found this low, failed to get back in, right? And then we would have looked for that continuation down off of this failure. Same thing on NQ off this bounce. This would have just been a retest of here, and then we would have looked for that failure and then rotation down. Same thing with Russell, right? If this wasn't able to hold these higher lows and just oscillate and we push below, I'd have been looking for downside instead. But instead, right, we see that buyer step in after we see sellers taking off size into an area that we care about. And then we have a small, very limited area of risk that we're playing around. And we're watching to see if we can hold the higher lows and if the market is all at once going to move in a singular direction from our pivots, from areas that we care about, right? And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, if we don't be an idiot and we wait for known participants to participate, right? Things become a lot easier than just trying to knife catch random levels, right? We wait for participation to show us the way, and then we play around those guys instead of just trying to randomly knife catch garbage. That's it. Like, it doesn't need to be incredibly complicated. You just have to like get out of your own way, right? Wait for the market to literally tell you what it wants to do and then play around it. Yeah, it's not always going to work, but it's going to be a much more high probability trade playing with those participants who are at least trying to initiate, right? Your one lot doesn't mean shit. You don't move the market, right? Your lines on your chart don't move the market. Your one lot on your sim account doesn't move the market. So let's play around the participants that are actually showing size and interacting at these levels. And if they don't show, right? If they don't interact, then we don't take it. We don't need to catch the literal bottom. We can play the secondary moves. They allow for really beautiful trades. Just like always remind yourself, like there's always something else. Like there's no reason to be taking any trade that doesn't fit your criteria. There's so many opportunities, right? Just waiting for that directional shift, that right side of V, right? Just on the 15 as your bias, looking for that hold of our POCs from a very clear absorption candle into our lows, right? Like these are all things that you can look for in your journaling to be like, okay, what does a right side of V candle actually look like? Well, I would like to see us push down into a liquidity area that I care about. I'd like to see a very clear reaction, right? Like with this wicking. Look at this. A very clear wicking outside of that area from our liquidity that we are looking to play around. And then I want to see our new 15-minute open above that POC to value of that candle and show interest. And now this is where I'm looking to put on risk. And if we can breach above that value, then I have a really great entry for rotations up. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what if I can then look at this, the top of our range, and start to see buyers show a shift above where this previous seller was? Well, like, that's a really good sign that we want to expand then, right? So like you just work through your system of being like, where are these interactions occurring? And are there areas of interest that we can now play around for potential secondaries? So if I had to do this over again, right, or when I was playing NQ instead of ES, I'd be looking for this look down into this area. I'd be looking for this push up into the value of this value high of this candle, looking for this retest into our POC for that open, and then the push. And then we're looking for secondary bids here, right? Why are we looking for secondary bids here? Well, it's where we saw that absorption occur. So if we're going to shift the overall trend, we want to see a very clear hold now of these previous highs where we saw this absorption occur, and an active participant now stepping in here to try to defend. If we can do that, then we can push for new highs, right? So we can use the 15-minute time frame, watching how we're interacting here, and then using the smaller time frame to then actually execute the trade. And remember, like we're just looking for full market participation. Is everything still pushing higher lows? Are we holding and maintaining our pivots that we care about? If the answer is yes, then we have our direction we should be looking for trades in, right? And then we just play around these larger structural levels that are literally telling us where participation is occurring and where we want to be holding, right? And it's like for the smaller time frame, right? We have the 50-minute that's telling us the larger structure. You can just put a fixed range on this upper rotation. We can put a fixed range on this overall thing, and then we can get two areas that we know we need to be able to breach through, right? We know this is our value low of this overall move. We know that these traders are outside. We can see that we just did the same thing like we did on ES. We rotated through our value, and we're now at our value high, right? What do we want to see now for this to build and sustain? Well, I'd love to see the POC of this area, right? Hold this supportive and then show interest outside for continuation, right? That just makes sense, right? Because we know if this doesn't hold, where we're going to go. We're going to go back down to our value low, right? Like it doesn't need to be insanely complicated. You just need to be realistic with your expectations and where you're looking to participate. We're getting that RTY attempt to try to hold 28s now. Yeah, right. Especially after what I just talked about. Makes sense, yeah. Holding POCs of previous candles, right side of V, like it's literally just the break of our previous absorption, now holding it as supportive. RTY continuation, flip of our 28s, like we talked about. Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. That area that we circled on that post from earlier that and if Russell wants to keep going up, well, I guess what the market wants to do. Right? Like we've got full participation against once again. Let me just watch this like 70 to 60 area.
The Nasdaq 100 pairs declines to 0.5%.
70 to 55, whatever you want to call it. Just watch to see as we push into it. Pretty strong reaction off of 70 so far. I'm probably out of here when Mario gets on. We had a really great morning. I'm sick of staying here for 2 extra hours to do nothing. 12 to 2 has been awful as of late. We'll see what happens, but I really like this 2-hour pocket that we trade, and I don't think that it makes sense for me to just stay here for no reason. Yeah, like 90, 500, yeah, for sure. We have a POC shift here that I'm just paying attention to. This like 496 to, I don't know, 510. If we can push over that, then I feel like our targets are probably like this. Would be my assumption. Sorry, I know it's like a lot of boxes, but yeah. It's like this 96 to 510, and then 530 to 545, and then 580, basically.
Thursday enjoyers.
Yo.
Hello.
Hello.
Ready
Sweet.
for a boring afternoon. Hell yeah.
Why would you say anything bad about him in the first place, bud? It's not very cool.
I say bad things about him, so it's only fair. You know? Like, I understand. I deserve it. Yeah. You know?
Doubling your damage is crazy, though. What are you doing?
Wow. He was still using, like, white uncrafted items from level 1 at
Oh.
level 40. It was literally the easiest thing I've ever done.
That'll do it. I'm just watching for a potential reoffer if we're gonna get it. This sell is a little stupid. I don't know if I really have any faith in it. Just Russell pulling back to our target, watching our 45s here. It's 45 to 25 is where we watch to see if the bid can maintain and get us back, or if this is going to now hold offer. Waiting for Russell to find the pullback. Mogged by a twink build. Jesus. Again, like the bid's just here at this 45. Nothing's really shifted yet. I'm not seeing a dramatic enough seller above for me to really think much about this. If we push below 25s and then see a pretty nasty sell, then I'm going to care a bit more. Just really watching this pivot here. It's 45 to 25 area. Seems important. Yeah, 45 participants still there. Russell found its low. POC attempting to shift. No change. That sell was really odd. Just watching our retest now. It's coming back into this 60 to 70. I took my first risk off here from 45 into 60. Took off another 5 into 70 here. I have 5 left from 46 average. These were our previous highs where we saw that absorption, so that's why 70 makes sense. And we just watch to see what we do into this. See if that was just like a liquidity grab or what it was, but I'm a little odd. Russell continuing to show higher lows. Yes, back into our main target here at 95s. This is our value high on NQ. I don't know, man. At some point, they're gonna have to get it.
They're only a couple thousand points behind. It's all right. Take some time. Yeah, and the inbounds. Well, the singles through 05. You get something.
Nasdaq continuing to pair losses here. It's now only down 0.15%.
Just took off one more into 80. Just leave runners now. See if we do anything new. Stops now, break even. New high. What a weird sell that was. Okay. Yeah, good job. Yeah, with like no bubbles or anything, just like a little, just like Russell pullback. Just like, oh, okay. Bid just like stepped out of the way, was unwilling. But it's like, all right, we're just back to our POC. I'm like, who cares? Let's see if we can flip and hold now above that 80. If they're going to do anything new off that absorption that was there in that first test. I don't know. It's probably safe to have your stop at like, I don't know, 58 if you don't want to just have it back down at those lows. If you wanted to have like a higher low stop. But we'll see what happens here. New 15s have opened. Yes, opening at POC of previous candle. NQ opening kind of in the middle of nowhere. Watching to see if we can flip this 80, hold it, or if we need to pull back to the value at 70. I think 70 to 80 is where we're just watching to see if we can sustain here. Watching our value of our previous candle, again, just at 70 as we push down the SLVN. RTY, a little dip. Watching our reaction at 70. So far taking in, need to get back over 80 for me to feel comfy. I'm personally stopped at 58 and I'm going to go take my dog on a walk so I don't overstay. So this either is going to go and we get that next move above 80s with a hold here, or I get stopped. Either way, it'll be all right. We had such a good day. But I'm not going to fight if it doesn't want to go right now. Here she comes to check on me to be like, hey, it's about that time.
It's time. What are you doing?
She does
Tasnim
this
News
lock
saying that
where-
Iran and Russia have signed a $25 billion MOU for cooperation in the nuclear sector. Iran's ambassador to Moscow said, highlighting expanding collaboration between the two countries on major nuclear energy projects.
She does like a run of the house and then like will look at me while walking by and then go stand at the door, look at the door, and then go right back to her bed after I don't acknowledge it. It's like, all right. It's like the most passive, like, human. My internal clock is telling me we were supposed to go on a walk 30 minutes ago. True, true. It's an interesting 15-minute candle, our previous one. Just holding value, previous candle though, right? Just a little look into that. Coming back up into our highs to see if we can do something new on this attempt. Russell continuing to lead up, higher lows. Right, just a little in there. Let's see if we can continue up now. Or if they're just going to sell this shit again. So, yep. Okay. Offer at 500. Good job. the classic doji candle on the 15 for the next 2 hours while we slow grind up.
Hell yeah.
All right. On that note, I will talk to you all later. Goodbye, friends. Talk to you tomorrow.
Peace.
Peace.